amid fight cancellations, amid making your debut in a new promotion, Bref the Pikey Johns, how are things?
It's been a stressful few hours. I think I found out yesterday at let me think, about 4 o'clock, like New York time, and it's now not even 24 hours later, and now we got a different opponent, a different name. So to be honest, it is one of them things. I love the saying, "It is what it is," but in this circumstance, it is what it is. So yeah, it's the first time this has happened in my career. When it comes to speaking to other fighters, I tell them to prepare for what prepare for the unpreparable, really. You want to be covering all sorts of bases. Now I got to kind of follow my own actions, and we got given the name Danny Sabatello, and it's very lucky that I know a lot about him anyway. I follow the scene, the local and regional scenes in the US, in the UK, all over the world, really. So I knew of him. I know who he is. I know what he's good at, So I watched a little clip after getting the news, and yeah, we're going to go full steam ahead. Don't get me wrong. It's a complete and utter different fight. Stylistically, it's completely different. But this is what I'm trying to say. I spent the last 18 weeks in camp, preparing for everything. And I mean everything. So it didn't matter what Matos threw at me because I was prepared for it. If Matos come in with a wrestling heavy game plan for a change, then I was ready for that. If Matos was going to be aggressive on the feet, I was ready for that. So looking back now, because I remember going through camp and thinking, oh, this has been a long camp. It's been maybe a little bit too long. But looking back now, it's fallen into place perfectly for this moment. It has, But there's no secret. Danny Sabatello is a really good wrestler. Another sort of high level, wrestler. And you could see that the preparation has been, obviously he's taken this fight on 8 days' notice as well. So let's not forget that. And fair play to him for stepping up, because I don't think I would have had a fight if he didn't. So I'm interested though, and I want to fight the best of the best. He's a former world champion, so I like that. I like that idea of fighting him because he's been in there at the top end of that of the regional scene. Now he's with Bellator, so yeah, I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. I got the fight, and like I said, it didn't matter because me and my brother, when we were out here, we joked about maybe potentially. We were just going through different sort of scenarios in our head. We said, well, what happens if Matos had COVID? And I was like, yeah, well, if Matos has COVID, Sergio Pettis could step in, I'd take the fight. So, I've got to follow my own words here, and I've had some good support. My coaches, I've got in contact with them, and they've kind of turned around and said, look, we're happy. Are you happy? I said, yeah, I'm happy. I looked at my brother, I said, you happy? And he's like, yeah, I'm happy. So I think we're all happy, and it does boil down to the last training camp we've had. It's been a long one, yes, but then again, in the same breath, I feel like I peaked at the right time. It's so crazy because you should, as a fighter, if you're going into camp prepared, fit, ready, you should have about an 8 to 10 week camp. If you're a little bit heavier going into the camp, then you probably want to put that to about maybe 12 weeks camp. Not 18 weeks, I come into camping with Nick anyway. So, but the good news is that, we're here now. We got another fight. Obviously, anything can happen from now into the fight. It could be a case of Danny Sabatello gets COVID, or you know what I mean. So, I'm an open book at the minute, and we'll see what happens over the next few days.
As a fighter fighting throughout this pandemic, is it something that weighs on your mind that there's a reasonably high likelihood that you mightn't be fighting the person you originally signed?
Yeah, it's weird, see, because of I've never really the worst I've had for a short notice fight was fighting Albert Morales in UFC Glasgow when Mitch Gagnon pulled out 3 weeks before the fight. So I have had some experience of fighting someone short notice, but not this short notice, So yeah, obviously with the COVID going on, I've seen, obviously being in the UFC and seeing the Fight Island, sort of way they were thinking, the way they were doing shows, and seeing people pulling out. It was a case of I kind of expect that, but my first fight didn't go that way. It was like you're fighting this guy, and it got all the way into the fight, So I definitely kind of took that for granted, that I looked at my last fight and went, yeah, well, everything went to plan on my last fight, that maybe I didn't kind of see the potential possibility that someone could have got COVID.
Yeah.
Firstly, though, I've got to say, obviously, I'm hoping that Matos has a speedy recovery. Of course, you know, at the end of the day, it's not his fault. I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm not disappointed in him. I'm just disappointed in the whole situation. You know, if it was the other way around, I'm sure he'd be the same. So, yeah, now we got Danny Sabatello. So now changing that mindset up and changing that game plan up a little bit. But like I said, I'm ready to go.
What was the first reaction when you found out Matos was out of the fight? What was the first thing that you thought, if there is something that comes to mind?
It was a case of when I looked at the message, and the first message was Matos has COVID. Then I was like, right, okay, well, I guess I'm not fighting them. But then instantly after that message was sent, they said they got a new opponent. So then I was back upbeat again. It was that 5 minutes was absolutely crazy, where I was busy anyway doing something, and then obviously that happened, and I was like, oh no. And then there was another name. Then it was like, all right, okay, what we do? We got to check this guy out. So we checked. But like I said, I kind of knew who Danny was. You know, like I said, I used to be a former competitor under the Titan FC banner. So I do watch them shows, you know, with Lex McMahon and stuff, you know. So, and yeah, it's an intriguing matchup. Of course it is, you know. He's game. He always is game. I've watched probably all of his fights. You know, he's a game competitor, and I feel like that it's going to be a tough fight. But it's the other. It was like, this is the middle where it's like a relaxed fight, and then you got Matos with the stand-up area, but now you've got Danny Sabatello, who's on the other side with the wrestling pressure. But like I said, my best attribute is my fitness, my cardio. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
How much can you formulate a specific game plan for Danny Sabatello on a week's notice, or is it a little bit more of pray for your condition and hope for your condition, and we'll see you through, and to a certain extent just go out there and fight? Or are you planning to have a specific game plan in mind come Friday night?
Well, I am a professional fighter, and I have a team of professional coaches behind me. So we don't go into a fight without knowing some sort of game plan, you know. When I was going through the ranks as an amateur, it was specific game plans. Now it's gone less so like that. So it's not as like strict, you know, at the end of the day, without being sort of blunt about it. It's kind of like a fist fight, you know. And I know that sounds so obvious, but I have got specific plans that I've spoken to my coaches about over the internet, and obviously they're coming out on Sunday, so we'll be able to work a little bit on things when they get here. But like I said, you know, it is what it is. You know, it is a fight at the end of the day. I could plan that it's going to be absolutely crazy, and it's not, and I can plan that the fight is going to be relaxed, and it's not. You know, so I'm an open book when it comes to this fight. I think it does depend on what happens, how the warm up goes, how the weight cut has gone, how the refuel has gone. You know, so there's still some variables there that I need to take in consideration when it comes to this fight. That's all I know is that, you know, you say to me, Danny Sabatello, I won't think, right, okay, I need a camp for Danny Sabatello, because the last camp, I covered all bases. I covered everything. The most relaxing thing in the world for me is to stand opposite the cage and go in. The first question I tell myself is, are you ready for everything? And if the answer is yes, then, you know, I'm not so much, I won't say relaxed, but I haven't got no questions.
Yeah.
Not having questions when you're in the corner is a very scary place to be. But I'm eager. Like I want to do this now. You know, I want to get it out the way. I want to get in there. It's been long enough for me, as people are aware. You know, so I just want to get in there and get the job done, really.
Yeah, and you've kind of explicitly mentioned that your nerves moving from the UFC to now your first fight in Bellator. Does this increase them nerves? Does that increase any more of your anticipation for making this promotional debut?
Personally, tenfold. Personally, like, I know everybody's different. People might come into this promotion thinking it's going to be an easier ride and they're a little bit more relaxed. The complete opposite for me. I definitely did not feel the nerves that I got now before that Montel Jackson fight. Yeah. You know, I did feel the nerves before the Gravely fight. You know, I did feel the nerves for the Pedro fight. I didn't feel the nerves for the Aljamain Sterling fight. And like I said, it's one of them things where I felt the nerves a lot lot earlier for this fight.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously the nerves were towards Matos, but now they're towards Danny Sabatello. And if I'm honest, I think there's more pressure there now. You know, this is a very tough fight anyway. This is, like I said, the other end of the scale for toughness. You know, you got a hard fight with a striker. It's going to be a tough stand-up fight. But now it's a tough fight with a grappler who's a good wrestler. It's going to be physical, man. It's going to be very physical. And, you know, the guy is a former world champion. He is 10-1, you know, and it's a good test. And like I said, it is one of these things now. And unfortunately, it is unfortunate because I had planned with someone else, but I want to fight. And it's my job to fight. So it didn't matter if it doesn't matter if my grandmother's the other side of the cage. I got to go in there and do my job, you know. And my nana would say the same.
I hope she's not. I hope she's not come Friday night. I hope we don't have another cancellation.
She's not training at the minute, so I doubt she'll take the fight anyway.
Do you see, out of interest, do you see some similarities with Sabatello, perhaps of you a couple of years ago, in terms of you were both champions of the same organisation, Titan FC? Perhaps your experience in the big leagues is going to be a factor in this fight.
You know, maybe it will be a factor, maybe not. You know, Danny has been on the scene for a while. You know, he's competed for a while. It's just now he's kind of blossoming through the promotions. You know, so to me, he's just like anybody else. I thought. Yeah. He's got two arms, he's got two legs, and he's gonna come swinging them. You know, so I won't look at like me, and I won't look at my experience as being a factor. At the end of the day, you go in there, and it's two human beings throwing leather, and it's just the first one to connect or the first one to dictate their game plan, or the first one to get a submission. You know, so like I said, you know, people will look at this and think he's more experienced, but Danny is good, and he will, and just like Matos, he will not be underestimated. You know, This is a bit unfortunate, obviously, because of I think the first fight was quite a big deal on the card, but now obviously with the last minute cancellation, it's probably had to go down. That suits the fan base back in the UK though, because they'll be on earlier on BBC iPlayer. But in the same breath, you know, look, I honestly, and it sounds blunt, I don't care. You know, it's one of them things for me. I'm doing my job, and like I said to my brother a few days ago, I'm planning on fighting everybody in this division. Yeah. So whether I fight Danny Sabatello now or in 10 fights time, we're going to be fighting. So it's now. You know, the stars have aligned, and that's what it is. It is what it is, and you know, no matter what the result is, I'm coming for everybody in this division. You know, and I'm honestly, I'm confident, very confident in my skill set, my training for this fight. My teammates have been obviously a massive factor in my training with the likes of Jack Shaw, who everybody knows of anyway. You know, the guy has really pushed me, and he is a big inspiration to me. You know, Jack has been there, done it, and you know, although you could say I was slightly ahead of him in his career, now we're on the same playing field. Now, you know, we're competing at a super high level, and to have someone like Jack there by my side, training with me, pushing me day in day out, is amazing. Obviously, there's a list of other training partners that have been amazing, like Josh Reed, former Cage Warriors title challenger. You know, you got Scott Pedersen in the mix. You know, you got Levi Basso, who's an up and comer. There's loads of different guys. Chris Edwards, a veteran. There's loads and loads of guys. But you know, it'd be nice, obviously, to get my foot in the door, get a good performance here, and you know, try and bring that event to Wales. That's what I want to do. You know, I think major organisations coming to the UK, they've been to Belfast, they've been to Dublin, they've been to Glasgow, they've been to all over England, but never Wales. And I feel like that I'm the man for the job to bring this major organisation back to the country and do a show here. And yeah, I want to be the main event in that show. I want to be the main character, and I want it all to be, in a selfish way, put around me. You know.
Yeah. What is the primary objective? Bellator Gold or Bellator Wales? What if you could have one of them things guaranteed, what would it be?
Probably gold. If you ask my honest opinion, Bellator Gold would be. I just look at it this way: if there's a Bellator London, my fans could travel up there. You know what I mean? So, no, Bellator Gold. That is it. Like, you know, that's why I come to this promotion, as well as obviously with the whole financial side of things. But I'm not coming here. You know, if I didn't feel like I could make an impact in this division, I wouldn't have signed over. You know, so obviously, it's a big deal. I look at some of these fighters, and by no way is it an easier promotion to fight these guys. There's some really big names there, and and look, at the end of the day, though, I'm super happy. I'm super motivated, and compared to Brett back in 2018, who wasn't even 10% of the Brett he is now, is a scary place to be for my opposition anyway.
And as we've talked about, as it's well documented, this is obviously your promotional debut in Bellator. And as I think we spoke about off air, you left the UFC on your own terms, 2-fight winning streak, top end of the Bantamweight division. Essentially, give me the key reasoning behind making this move from the UFC to Bellator.
It was, I'm in this game for a number of different reasons. I'm in this, don't get me wrong, I'm doing this for myself. I always say that to everybody. I'm doing this to kind of better me. And this is why I always say the attitude of, it doesn't matter who I fight, because there's only one person I'm not going to beat, and that's me every single time, So the whole move thing was obviously for me, but more than that, it's to do with my family and to do with securing my sort of my family, are the one I want to create. I'm the family I've already got, and I feel like I'm going the right direction for it, because financially it was a different ballgame. It really was, the UFC, and that's not me saying anything negative about the UFC, because the UFC has helped me create my profile to what it is today, and I'm forever grateful. But when I'm looking at other fighters with the same UFC record as me, 5 wins, 2 losses, but they're getting paid more than me. Now, I'm not on about getting paid more than me by $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, even $10,000. They're getting paid a lot more. And I'm thinking, I've fought who they wanted. I've never said no to a name. And if I have said no to the name, I fought him again. I think I said no to Pedro Munoz in the February and fought him in the August, And yeah, it was a tough move, but obviously I sat my family down, and not one person disagreed with me and with my family and with my coaches. We all kind of sat down and went, do you think it's a good idea? Yeah. Do you think it's a good idea? Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Then we're going to do it, And I had planned that I wanted to fight in November, but obviously with the visa and trying to work things out there, that was unavailable. We had an offer for April 16th. That kind of fell through. Then it was matched for the 21st of May, but now we're here. So you can say there's been a lot of ups and downs since signing with a promotion, But in the same breath, I know that this is the right time. And I feel like my training and my motivation, and there's literally, I look back at the camp to try and think of something I could spot out, other than having sort of niggly injuries in camp, which is every camp. There's nothing I would have changed. And I mean outside of fighting, I mean just with personal things as well. Everything's just gone really well. And I haven't had a camp like this for a very long time. Sorry, one thing that did happen, my ceiling fell down in my dining room, the plasterboard ceiling. That is the only negative that happened in this fight, But that'll get fixed soon enough. But injury-wise, yeah, it happens, So you're going to get these little niggly bumps and bruises, but so does everybody, I guess. It is what it is. Like, I haven't broken anything majorly, Everything's looking fine. My previous injuries from previous fights have healed up, so we're all good. Got through the medicals fine. So it just feels like, it just feels like one of them things now. When I'm looking around, trying to spot if something went wrong, I'm trying to look back to see if any negatives did happen, but they just didn't, in training. But yeah, I'm happy, and this excites me. And the crossover to Bellator itself, I think, is just that extra bit of motivation. So, financially, they've kind of really changed my life. Bellator have, they really have, So I'm grateful for Bellator. Obviously, I do feel like I'm getting paid what I'm worth, and this is only going to go up and up and up, because the performances I will be putting on will be, at the end of the day, I'm still fighting the best in the world. It might be in a different promotion, but in my belief, I'm fighting the best in the world, and just going out there to prove it. But come next Friday, I'm hoping that everybody sees this new improved game, because skill-wise, I feel like I've been like this for a few months now, but my mental side of it has been a different level, and it's great because I get a show next Friday. So
yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Bellator almost have 3 sections of fighters. They have the young up and comers that they sign through perhaps collegiate wrestling systems or just the young amateurs. They have the old names who they've tried to build their name off probably the last 4 or 5 years ago. The likes of Fedor Emelianenko is the one that comes to mind, Chael Sonnen. And then they have the real quality. And I think it can't be said that Bellator does not have world-class fighters. I think the key difference is they probably have less of them in terms of quantity compared to the UFC, but the quality is without doubt, and I think most notably shown in your division, because in my opinion, bantamweight is thriving like no other in Bellator.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the Bellator bantamweight division is stacked, and when I look at stacked divisions in Bellator, like they're all stacked to a certain extent, they all are. But when I look at certain sort of weight classes, I definitely see my top three choices would be light heavyweight, and I mean this when I say this. I think light heavyweight. I think Bellator has a better division there than they do in the UFC. There's more variety. There's different fighters there, so I definitely see, Bellator having that light heavyweight division sort of locked in, and especially with the tournament structure, I love it, man. And then obviously welterweight is a big one. Featherweight is a big one, and you're on about like fighters who have been with the promotion for a very long time. You can just look as far as AJ McKee, really. That guy, you would put him in there with anyone in the UFC featherweight division, and I feel like he'll do really well. The guy is fighting for $1 million. His next fight against the double champ Pitbull, so he's a guy who I look at and I think, yeah, he could be a real issue worldwide, any promotion. I'm not on about UFC. I'm not on about sort of like UFC, Bellator, ONE FC. I'm all about worldwide. Every promotion, I feel like that guy would make an impact. So, they have got the talent there, definitely got the talent there, but it is kind of, like the reason why they're probably not known as well is because the banner of the UFC being so strong. But, there's definitely fighters in that Bellator division that can make a real big impact in that UFC. And you've seen it with Michael Chandler. The guy was a huge name in Bellator, and he's crossed over and made that impact straight off the bat. So that should let the fans know that, there's not just one major promotion out there. There's a handful,
There's been rumours of something you just touched upon there, which is a Grand Prix or a tournament for the bantamweight division. Would that be something that would intrigue you? Because I think we've rarely got a good top end now, especially with Pettis as the world champion. That could be the next in the promotion.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like there's no secret about it. Fighting for $1 million. Why wouldn't you do it? So yeah, and I expect to be a name in that tournament. I expect to be in that tournament with these guys, the quarterfinal stages. I want to be there. It would not matter who I'd be up against. If they wanted to put me against the champ first, Pettis, then so be it. That's the way I'm thinking. At the end of the day, having 3 fights over a period of time, I'm doing that anyway. But if I can do it in a tournament structure, people forget sometimes. I fought twice in one night. I fought a 3 5-minute round fight against the number 2 in Europe, then fought an hour and a half later for the Cage Warriors world title. Yeah. And went 5-5s there. So, literally when people say I could do that in one night, I nearly did. I fought twice in one night, So yeah, the tournament does intrigue me. There's plenty of names in that tournament as well. Yeah. I can think of a good few competitors in that list where you've got sort of, Sergio Pettis, Juan Archuleta, Dorian Caldwell, Magomedov, James Gallagher, Patchy Mix. There's 6 off the bat there. And Leandro Higo, Brazilian guy, number 7. So there's, like you said earlier, there's a lot of talent in that division. And yeah, I want to be a name in that division. Why wouldn't I be? So. But first, we go look at Danny Sabatello, and that guy will not be looked over. He's a tough guy. So yeah, I'm expecting a tough fight next Friday. But thank God I've had the camp I've had.
Do you think that this Danny Sabatello fight, presumably a win, which I know you're not overlooking him, but that is the obvious goal and objective. Do you think that win could get you in the top 10? Or do you think this short-term notice dents your hopes of that?
No, 100%. I still feel like I'm a top 10 fighter anyway. Danny Sabatello, if you're looking at just them 2 guys there, you're looking at Mateus Matos and Sabatello. Well, Sabatello's a world champion, Yeah. Mateus Matos had a good title, fought for a world title, did really well, fought Petr Yan for the world title. But now it's Danny Sabatello, who was a former world champion. So like I said, I fought the best of the best, and what they've done, they've replaced one of the best with another guy who was won a world title. So it's like, it's one of them things, man. Yeah, I definitely I see like just like Matos. I saw Matos in that top 10 just because he didn't get a win with the promotion and he fought Magomed first fight. I saw Matos in that top 10.
Yeah.
Danny Sabatello has signed to Bellator. I see him being in the top 10. So yeah, a win you 100% puts me in that top 10. There's no question in my mind. There's some guys in that division, no names mentioned, who haven't even fought the likes of Danny Sabatello, and I've had 3 fights with the promotion. So I do feel like, yeah, it's going to get me in the top 10. I'm not saying it's going to get me any higher than the top 10. At the end of the day, if it gets me anywhere, I can see it going, I don't know, 8th, 7th, 8th. I don't know if I had a guess, a win over someone like that. Of course I do. But, there's only one number that I care about, and that's number 1. That's the number that I care about. So, yeah, I'm looking to obviously go through a former world champion, and then I'm looking to go for a current world champion. So that's my plan of attack anyway.
With what you're saying now, do you view the change of opponent more as a sidestep as opposed to a downgrade in opponent from Matos to Sabatello?
Yeah, it's definitely not a downgrade. It's definitely not a downgrade. I could have taken easier fights. I'm sure I could have.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Bellator put me with Matos, and when I saw the Matos name, I thought, oh, first, that's a tough fight. And now they've got an 8-day notice guy who's also a tough fight. So
Yes.
yeah, it is a tough fight, and I definitely do not see him as a step down. Potentially a step up. You know what I mean? That's what I truly believe. It's definitely not down though. Matos is good, Sabatello, but then again, Matos was coming off a loss with Magomedov. Danny Sabatello was on a 4-fight win streak, and his last fight, it was for the championship, So yeah, I definitely don't see this fight being a downgrade for sure, and he will not be taken lightly.
And obviously, what we sometimes see with last-minute change of opponent is, despite the original competitor yourself having a long camp and having prepared, they sometimes have a little bit of a lackluster performance. Is anything that you specifically plan to do to negate a lackluster-ish performance against this short notice opposition?
I feel like my last camp, I felt like the whole sort of, well, not so much the last camp, but the one before that, I felt like I was doing things on my own, and I felt like before the Gravely fight, even though it was a very good fight and it was entertaining to watch, because even when I watch it back, I enjoy watching that fight. I don't even think that fight was much on me, And then with the sort of Montel Jackson fight, I felt like the camp went brilliantly. But there was some sort of things that leading up to that fight where I probably could have improved on. Nothing to do with my training, with my coaches or teammates. It was more to do with me when it comes to coming into fight week, and you go for runs all the time and you're not working on the sort of the skill set side of things, which is the boxing and stuff. I just felt like I was a little bit flat. Maybe I did put a lot of pressure on myself before that Montel Jackson fight with obviously being with a new team and obviously working with a new coach for weight cutting. There was so many things, and I think the pressure might have slightly got to me then. But now I feel there's pressure there. Of course, there's pressure there, but it's just different. It's hard to explain. The preparation has gone fine. The last week or so being here, or the last few days being here in Ireland, has gone brilliantly, working with my brother. And yeah, I just feel like there's none of that sort of tension there anymore. The only tension is really just going in and perform. And I've done that for the last 18 weeks, so I'm happy to do it. Obviously I've done it for the last 18 weeks, but now I got to do it on the night. And it does, like I said earlier, it does depend on how things go with the weight cut and stuff. But I'm in the best shape of my life right now. And you could see that on my social media and seeing. The big physical structure changing me. I feel like now I'm starting to come into my prime. I don't feel like I'm there yet. I feel like I'm maybe a year or two off, but I'm definitely coming into my prime. And yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of experience at only 29, with 7 UFC fights now entering your Bellator career. That your age with your experience is only going to be a positive.
I say I got a veteran mindset and a pair of young shoulders. That's what I got, and I've been in there with a who's who.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I look back at my career and I want to run a few of them back. Of course I do. I think it'd be stupid if I didn't want to. I really would love to run some of them fights back. And yeah, it just, you know, I've learned a lot from it, you know, and you know, people say, would you go back and change it? That's very tough. That's a tough question. Would I go back and change it? Of course, if I could go back and change the result, I would. I'd want to win, you know. But the 2 fights that I did lose was just, yeah, I've learned a lot from it inside the octagon, but mostly outside of the cage. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it is one of them things. Obviously, being in this sport for a very long time, I've definitely developed a lot of, you know, experience fighting the best and the best. And the good thing is when I look back at my career, even if it all come crumbling down right now, I could look back in my career and be happy with the people I've fought already.
Well, that's good, but let's for one final question turn the conversation back to the fight at hand. Brett, give me a prediction for Friday night. What happens when you're locked in there with Danny Sabatello?
I see this fight going just like the Mateus Matos fight, but just slightly different, as in the other end of the scale.
Yeah.
I see it being more of a physical fight, and I do see it going the 3-5s. You know, if don't get me wrong, if anything presents itself early, I'll definitely take it. But you know, I've got some ideas and some sort of game plans that I think will work very well against Danny. And if one of them pays off, then we probably might get the stoppage there. But if you're asking me, this guy's good, I'm good. And I feel like, yeah, it'll probably go that decision. But it's definitely going to be an entertaining fight. That's 100% sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I very much look forward to seeing you back in action. And I think we can disclose it now. We're going to wrap up. This is the second time we've spoken in 24 hours. So very much thank you for your time.
Yeah.
The last couple of days.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, obviously speaking yesterday and then obviously getting this change up has been a bit of a pain. But like I said, you know, it's one of the things. And just want to thank a few guys, if I can, at the minute. Sorry. So basically, I want to thank KO Candy. I want to thank Beck Clever, Tatami Fight, where, you know, I want to thank the teams that have trained me up. I want to thank, obviously, my brother, who was the photographer for BJ MMA, for keeping the content up to date. My family, my fiance, everybody really. So it's just, but the big thing for me is thanking the sponsors for their input. Obviously, UFC Wales, who are a private group who have done bits and bobs for me as well, and also Supology, who have helped me out with not just obviously financially for this fight, being able to get out early, but I guess I get paid to say that their products are good. I guess you could say that, but honestly, the difference I felt with some of the cooling gels they've had has made the last few days a lot more bearable, you know. So yeah, thanks to them guys, really, you know.
And before we finish, Brett, how can people find you on social media?
So I'm personally my personal account's Brett Johns MMA on Instagram and at 36 Johns on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel as well. I think it's B Johns MMA, and also my photograph page, which all fairness, my brother's in charge of that. He's worked, you know, he's got the camera with him all the time, you know. So that's at B Johns MMA. So if you guys want to check that out, of course we're going to be keeping the content going. Me, not so much, because of obviously I'm trying to concentrate and stuff. But if you want to get that sort of, you know, you want to see how the camp is going, then please check out B Johns MMA as well.
Yeah, superb. Well, best of luck for Friday, Brett.
Thank you, man. Thank you.